What's up, guys? Phil Vallejo here with the Modern Day Cyber Podcast, and welcome back to another episode. This is episode number 66, and Kaylin and I are just coming back from Volusia County, Florida, where we hosted an Intro to Precision Rifle and an Advanced Competition Clinic. Kaylin and I pretty much recap on some of the trends that we saw in regards to fundamentals with our students and some of the gear issues some of our students were having. This is our second year now down at Volusia County, just right outside of Orlando, Florida. And we're super huge fans of the venue. We think it is perfect for both the introductory level student that's just looking to get into long range shooting and even the advanced level shooter that is looking to maybe broaden their horizon or skill set, especially when navigating positional shooting off of their belly. So we look forward to coming back year after year. Kaylin and I also talk about the new competition chassis that KRG just released, which is the C4. Now, we're super honored to have helped out with some of the prototype and design features, giving them feedback, and what we feel like the competitive shooter is looking for out of a chassis. So we're super excited to talk to you guys about some of the features that we like about it and what to expect from the end user when they do release the chassis to the public. All right, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this new kind of intro that we're doing with the podcast. If you guys are new to the Modern Day Cyber Podcast, welcome. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. And if you're a returning listener, thank you guys for coming back and your support. And let's go ahead and dive into this episode. You guys know the drill. Keep your face on the gun. All right, continue.
So you can look at the berms out there and you can see that the berms are, horizontally level. And then also you got the water line out there and you can see the water line's level. And so I think what ends up happening is when you have students that have the levels on there, they obviously it's been told that it's a necessity, right? It's been told to everybody that it's a necessity. We see it as a necessity to be super, super precise, especially on uneven terrain or uneven ranges. But then if for a beginning shooter, if the level is not correct, which 4 of those guns did not have levels that were correct, the students then focused on the level that's incorrect and their wind calls are completely different than everybody else's. And every shot, it's a different wind call because every shot, the rifle is in a different orientation with regard to the angle of cant. And so it's interesting because people put the levels on their guns, but yet they don't also incorporate the level into the pre-shot process or like looking at the level in the pre-shot process, or they forget about it. And, a lot of things that we saw, like bipods not being tight enough. And so the rifle is canting and rotating under the forces of recoil. And the student's brain is overloaded to the point of they're out of the system. They're not in the loop. And so all of these things that need to be focused on in a systematic way are just kind of like in space and, oh yeah, okay, I got to go grab that one. And then it's like, oh, the attention gets directed to that one, but then we miss a couple other things. So that's something that I noticed while we were there. And the other thing was grip and trigger finger placement. Big time. I saw a lot of that stuff that required, that's one of those things that requires a lot of attention because it's clearly very, very solidified in the subconscious, the way that the grip is being built. And so in order for that to be changed, the student has to be aware of it and then make a focused effort to correct it. But at the same time, they also need a coach standing over the top of them to say, no, do it again. Nope, do it again. You did it again. And so I took a lot of photos. I took a lot of videos of students that were doing that and sent them those videos and photos. So that way they could see the difference between what is correct versus what is incorrect when it comes to grip. So, and trigger finger placement. But I think, the gear that we had we had some good gear. We had some guns that were struggling when they were getting warm, when the barrels were getting warm. But outside of that, everybody had pretty good consistent gear in the intro course. And even, obviously the advanced course, the advanced competition clinic, everybody had super solid gear there too. So
I'd differ your opinion on rifles that were there. There was a couple rifles that were having some issues.
Which in the intro?
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Two,
that's
yeah, two
those are the ones
specific
that I'm
rifles.
talking about. Yeah, those are the ones
Yeah, yeah,
that were
yeah.
struggling.
So yeah, and this kind of goes to like understanding when a student comes through class and their headspace, right? If they bring equipment that, you know, they find out it's not working for them, or just like they get sucked into a rifle that has all these awesome reviews by, you know, I don't know, people that are not shooting at the cadence that we're shooting, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, like they just end up having a horrible learning experience, right? Because they're just so focused on the performance of their rifle,
Mhm.
and it's just not able to per se keep up, right, with some of the other class, right? And then frustration starts to build.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
When we're trying to run them through courses of fire or whatnot, and you know they have a certain expectation of this rifle to perform, but it's not performing, you know, again based off of what they're seeing in their terms of their peers and other class in their rifles.
Right.
Yeah.
And that just takes you down that'll take a shooter way down into the depths of doubt in everything. And like you said, they start getting frustrated, and it's rightfully so. I mean, like those, this is not a cheap, this is not a cheap hobby, right? So you're investing a tremendous amount of time and money into a rifle, and then you come to a course which also then costs you time and money, um, and it's not performing nearly where it should be under those conditions. And people, they're not making the connection because they're just not educated yet on the nuances of the difference between, say, like a hunting rifle versus a rifle that's designed to have a sustained rate of fire for a long duration of time and still be able to retain the accuracy and precision, from shot number 1 to shot number 20, you know, in say a 20 shot
Mhm.
string. And I can totally see how that's frustrating. And then you don't want to be that guy that's just like, hey man, you kind of selected the wrong piece of equipment for this particular application. And you can see like you can see the look of frustration and the glossed over look in the eyes of like, did you just tell me my baby was ugly? And, and you're just like, I'm really like, I'm not trying to be a people pleaser here, man, but yeah, you kind of you brought the wrong tool for the job. And so if that's the only rifle that person has, then you know, they're like, okay, well then what do I do for the next 3 days while we're out here shooting? We made some concessions. We brought another student had an extra rifle that helped one student alleviate some problems, and it was in their own little group there, so of friends. So the last man out, so to speak, you know, he was just having to make sure to keep in the back of his mind that he couldn't continue to go super deep into shot strings without stopping and letting the barrel cool and bringing it back to where it started. So, but man, that is super frustrating to experience, especially in a learning environment, because our classes, I wouldn't say it's super fast paced, but it is paced so that everything builds on the preceding uh, the preceding subject, and so you can get left behind pretty fast, just as a nature of the amount of information we're trying to put into 4 days, and with the end goal in mind.
Yeah, and you know it's tough because we don't want to leave a student behind.
Yeah.
Even with two instructors, you know, this is why, you know, having a third instructor would help out. But even with two instructors, it's very hard to see everything, especially when you want to maximize the um, learning curve of every student based off of their skill level, right? We had a perfect example of a student of ours that has taken, I'm pretty sure he's taken all of our online training, and it showed when he came to class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you need to get a high shooter for intro.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's just super cool. I think that just goes back to what you and I are trying to create with the online training program, and that system there of like, hey, taking a person from literally not zero to hero, but give them based off of their time and obviously range availability to be able to watch these videos and go, hey, I'm going to go practice this one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then go to class to get those small little tweaks that obviously you're not able to get by just watching a video, right?
Right.
Maybe like you said, grip or placement of the hand, trigger finger relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? How they're managing recoil, right? That's essentially what you come to class. And then a lot of it is maybe reaffirmation of what you've learned in these online platforms, or maybe just we're now saying it a different way, or now it's able to click, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, okay, like, hey, they understand the basic concept, but now as we're explaining it again, or or saying it a different way, that's where the light bulb moments come on. You know what I mean? Especially with
Sure.
like we start talking about wind and gun number. A lot of guys listen to our podcast smash that that wind podcast that we did
Mm-hmm.
of gun number, and they're just like,
Yeah.
still can't grasp the concept. And then you write everything out for them and they're like, I get it now.
Yeah, for
Just
sure. And I think a lot of the guys show up. I say guys, a lot of students show up thinking that gun number thing is like the end all be all. And that's exactly the only way that the only method or technique that we utilize to call the wind and compensate for it, but it's not. It's just one of many. It's funny. I was stuffing some cases this morning, and I was listening to one of Eric Cortina's videos where he interviewed one of the winners of nationals, F-class nationals. There's an older gentleman that was talking about wind reading. He shoots a 7R SOM as well. He said he'd been shooting it since 2013 or 2012, something like that. And he was talking about his process of reading wind, and he's like, well, I'm focusing on the wind at the target as with my rifle scope, but then I have my spotting scope focused on wind at mid range, so that way I can identify the two different zones that the bullet's going to fly through. And he echoed the same thing that we talk about. It's like, hey, very rarely are you going to have a condition where everything agrees with the other. And he said, really, the bottom line is just experience and being able to take a guess. And he said every single shot, he was like, every single shot, I'm scared that that bullet's going to go someplace where where I don't want it to, because I missed something, like because I missed some sort of indicator. And it's interesting that he brought that up too, because reading a lot about lately about just visualization and utilizing positive mental attitude and thought process to manifest results and visualizations. It's almost seems like that would be counterproductive. But then again, clearly this gentleman's performing, and he was able to take a title out of that type of mentality. So there's something to be said for it. I think maybe perhaps instead of fear, it's a respect for the conditions, and knowing that in the back of your mind that every shot really truly is a guess. It's a guess, and you're taking your best guess in that moment right now. And so I enjoyed it. It's like 15 minutes long. He just basically just interviewed this guy, and it was a good one.
Yeah, it's funny that you say about like being scared. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily scared when I'm like doing demos in front of the students, and we've got the trigger cam, and this last class we were able to hook up the monitor so that as we were doing the demonstration, they're seeing exactly what I'm seeing through the scope, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm to a point where it's just like, hey, if I miss, I miss, right? It shows A, that I'm human, but B, I'm not afraid to miss. I'm not afraid to take my best guess at my wind call, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for us, this is training, right? It's training because I'm not in a competition. I'm not on a hunt, right? So I can take the opportunity to learn from all my mistakes in terms of like, oh, I overjudged the winds at that point based off of what I saw with Mirage, right? And when it comes down to it, it gives me an idea of like, hey, if I'm now shooting at an animal and I see these exact same conditions, I can be like, well, last time I saw this, I made, 75% of my wind calls incorrectly. So I'm probably just going to get closer to
Yep,
where I'm more confident, right?
for sure.
Or, have a 100%, confidence of like, I've seen this before, right? I've seen these conditions and, 10 out of 10 times in this distance and in this position, I'm going to hit my fucking target,
Yep,
right?
for sure.
So
I
a lot
thought
of guys, a lot of guys get paralyzed with again making that perfect wind call that we talked about in our wind class,
the
right?
paralysis by
The
analysis.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, he also brought it up. He's like, look, for us, we have 20 minutes to shoot our string. Right. So in that game, there is a certain level where you can kind of wait for the conditions to settle themselves or become consistent. And he said, you can do that to a certain point, but he goes, yeah, you only have 20 minutes to get this done. So, you don't want to burn up all your time waiting for a condition to change or move back to what you thought was the initial baseline. But he said, it is nice, but in our world, when you have 2 minutes or 90 seconds, and that's just you're dealing with whatever the conditions are in that 2 minutes or that 90 seconds, in the competitive world, and obviously you're dealing with whatever scenario you're dealing with in a hunting environment. And so that's, again, it goes to show that you have to get out and shoot in a bunch of different conditions and a bunch of different locations to figure out all of these variables and to build your own mental database of cues and feelings and sensations. And like you said, like, I don't think I'm scared. I don't think I'm scared to miss. I think that goes a lot into confidence in equipment that I'd like to kind of touch on in this podcast too, just kind of comes to mind. Having confidence in your equipment is absolutely paramount. And when you don't have confidence in your equipment, there is that thought in the back of your mind saying, where's this one going to go? And when we have that happen, you're questioning whether or not you're doing everything correctly. And then you're seeing something that goes contrary to what the last sight picture's call was. And you're just like, yo, what happened with that one? And so that gets worse and worse the greater the distance you go. Whereas, like, if you're having a flyer happen here and there at 400 and 500 yards on a 2 minute of angle target, okay, yeah, we can deal with that. But as soon as we start stretching the limits or pushing past that out to like 6, 7, 800 yards, those flyers become misses, and they become they force you to question everything that you're doing. You're just like, hey, did I really break that shot center, or why did it go there? And also, Eric brought up another good point in a conversation when it came to rifle cleaning. And he was talking about, like, okay, so in the world of F-class shooting, we understand that we're going to have flyers. We understand that we're going to have flyers. We do everything that we can to minimize the frequency of those flyers happening, but we know that they exist. However, he said, in the PRS game, nobody talks about flyers. Everybody talks about getting wind screwed, right? And it's just like, it goes back to us talking about shooting dot drills clean, right? When people say, hey, I just got screwed by the wind, or the wind stopped. And he even mentioned that in his discussion too. He's just like, well, you really think the wind stopped in that exact instant to cause you to miss the plate? Or did you have a flyer? Or did you break a bad shot? And it's always, I think, in our world, we're moving so fast that it's very difficult to hit the pause button and go, wait a minute, was that a flyer, or was that me, or was that the condition? And so I think that's a great point to discuss, and to just truly admit it and say, yeah, man, like, a lot of the shooters that we see out there believe that every single bullet should go exactly where they want it to. And that is just absolutely not the case.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that especially when you're looking and you're shooting and you're like, man, was that a flyer? You're almost scared to make a correction,
Yeah,
right? You're
for
almost
sure.
scared to be like, man, if I make a correction by holding low, I feel like now I'm going to miss low, right? Because now that bullet's going to go exactly where my reticle's at.
And that
I've been,
happens.
it
I
does happen. Yeah. Yeah.
I reviewed trigger cam footage. I reviewed a bunch of trigger cam footage from the last day we shot in Florida, and it was like savage, man. Like you could literally see the trigger cam, the reticle. I love the trigger cam because you can go frame by frame. You can see exactly where the reticle was before it blurs to go to
Yep.
recoil. And you're like,
Yep.
okay, cool. That was a center shot. You watch the bullet land, 3/10 to the right, just off the right edge of the target. And then you can see, oh, okay, I'm going to correct 3/10 to the left. And you break a completely clean 3/10 left shot, and the bullet goes exactly where the center of your reticle is. And you're like, dude, it's just one of those days. And we had those conditions there just about every day that we shot. We didn't have a whole lot of
Except day 2 when we actually was shooting long range for PR 101
we did have
for the
some
intro
crosswinds.
class. Yeah, that was the most that we held for when the whole week that we were there was day 2 when
Yeah.
those guys were stretching their legs out the first day. I think we were holding like a mill at 900.
Yeah, pretty much everything else besides that, it was like, it's coming either
It was
right in
yeah,
your face or a tailwind, and, fluctuating between a quarter and a half value left or right. And so, yeah, those conditions are frustrating. And then like going through the footage, I'm like, okay, so let's stop that. And I know that this potentially could go against, reading these books on, like the champion's mindset and, Bassham's book on with winning in mind. And he talks about, he's just like, I don't think about the bad shots. I don't think about the shots that I missed. And I can see where he's coming from that point of view. But I think also it depends on how you're looking at those shots that you missed, because I do believe that you have to learn from something. Like you have to be able to learn from witnessing, okay, what did I miss? And then you can go back in the trigger cam footage and you can look and say, did I miss the mirage change in between those two shots? Was it visible for me to see it even? Or was it just a circumstance of the conditions? And so I think that's really important for our style of shooting to be looked at in order for us to grow and learn. I don't know. What do you think about that in terms of, do you think about the shots that you missed, or do you think more along the lines of what you did well and you do not dwell on the shots that you missed?
struggle with this. In competitions, um, in competitions, I try to not focus on the shots that I miss, but then I also try to rationalize like, okay, well, did I miss because of something that's out of my control, which is win,
Right.
or did I miss because of something that what's in my control? Because if it's within my control, how can I mitigate that next time, right? Bad dope, right? Wrong wind dial, which I did at the PRS finale, and honestly, but for training, it's like, hey, if I miss, just make the correction, right? Whereas like, again, in competition, I wish I could continue to carry that. And that's what I've been working on lately, is just kind of my mental mindset of like, turning the page when I do have a bad stage. And it's tough, right? It's tough because a lot of shooters have, especially when they go to a national level match, that you're traveling, right? It's a lot to bear expense to.
Yeah.
On top of,
You got a lot
for
of skin in
me,
the game.
oh yeah, for me, like leaving my daughter for the weekend, right? So when I have a bad weekend, right? I try not to, lash out, but it's just our emotions taking over us. And that's one thing that I've been trying to get better at individually. And I was just actually having this conversation with Mike Lilly, and we were talking about when I won the PRS finale in 2018. And it's like, I didn't have Zoe then. She was with mom, and I remember shooting at the range every day because I was working with Gunworks, right? We were on. I was on the range every day, working. I'd shoot right after the students and train for a little bit, and then I shot up until the finale, pretty much 2 matches a month. So September, October, November, because I wasn't hunting yet, and I mean that's what it takes to be at the top of the level of competition, right? You can't just show up anymore, right? And expect to do well. There's a couple freaks like that, right? That just really have a mental, that mental fortitude. But then, for the most part, for I'd say 98% of the other average competitors, like you have to go out there and put in the work, build mental resilience and stuff like that.
Yeah, the mental resilience part is that's a struggle. Every single piece of literature publication that I've ever read on winning mindset or a champion's mindset, it always focuses on self-image. There's always a significant amount of real estate, if you will, in the book talking about self-image and managing emotions, managing expectations, setting expectations. And it's rightfully so, just because we have these systems within our bodies that if we don't understand what they are, they can quickly grab a hold and take control, and you're riding a wave that you don't want to be on, and you can't, it's not as easy as just jumping off the wave until you're aware that that's the wave that you're riding. And then you go, oh, okay, wait a minute. So, all right, I'm here. I understand. I'm aware of how I got here in this current mental state. And so now what techniques can I use to get myself out of that mental state and get back to a baseline? Duffy's emotional baseline chart and his graphic is really good. I enjoyed listening to him describe that and draw it on the whiteboard, because it's very real. It's and it's an effective way of communicating like the ups and downs that you go through each and every day, each and every human. I mean, dude, there's, what do we have? 60 to 70,000 thoughts go through our head a day. And 90% on average, 90% of those, of the thoughts that we think are the same thoughts that we had the day before. So we can see how quickly it is that we can, fall into a pattern of thinking that truly doesn't serve us. It's not doing anything to help or progress our mindset, which then will help progress our physical skills, right? So it's all fascinating stuff, and I'm learning. I'm as well as because we're talking about it together. We talk about it a lot. Is the psychology aspect of it, which for me it's becoming very, very fascinating and kind of addictive to continue to read about it and learn about it. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I always ask myself, well, what's my end state, right? What's my end state with competing at the high level? What's my end state with training and stuff like that? And ultimately, like, I'm doing it for myself, right? Like, I'm doing it to see, like, well, what's my true potential behind a precision rifle, right? And this is why we've talked about this. This is kind of why I don't like the fact that we have home range. That I love going to different places to train in different venues to relearn the wind and the specific environment and stuff like, because that's realistic to where we came from, right? And even for hunters, right? It's very realistic for hunters to go to an area that they have never ever trained before and try to figure it out within a couple days or within split seconds of, like, hey, I've got a shot at 500 yards, the closest I can get. What experience do they have at that point to confidently, again, pull the trigger and know that they didn't hit by luck, right? By the skin of their teeth, or they didn't bring a freaking 300 Win Mag or 300 PRC to offset their poor shot placement.
Right.
you know, and people, it's funny. I mean, I would say ever since I shot my elk, yeah, on social media, Colton and Dustin from Gunworks, Colton Bagnoli, we know, like, our good friend,
Uh-huh.
always tag me in 6.5 Creedmoor memes, and I'm reposting them, and a lot of people think that now, like, they're shitting on the 6.5 Creedmoor. It's like, dude, it's like, if only you knew that I've got 7 fucking 6.5 Creedmoors,
Right.
because I'm a big fan of that cartridge, right? So it's the most well-rounded cartridge, uh, and that's the, like, words mean things. Most well-rounded cartridge for long-range shooting.
Yep.
I didn't say long-range hunting, right? I
Right.
said for long-range shooting.
Right.
Is it an optimal long-range hunting cartridge? Well, let's define long range, right? Um, because at the end of the day, I'm not taking 1,000-yard elk shot, 1,000-yard mule deer shot,
Mhm.
because there's so many. I know for a fact there's so many um, unknowns that, between you and that target, that I know for a fact a lot of people aren't taking into consideration,
No, they're
and
not.
just out of pure quote unquote luck, right? They're able to connect. Um, but I think there's just a lot of, and I can see just a lot of misinformation of people, saying that, oh, I bought the 6.5 Creedmoor and I shot an elk with it and it didn't go down because I had perfect shot placement. Well, I mean, if you understood the rifle that you're bringing to the fight, you probably should have known that I need to be prepared for a follow-up shot.
Mhm.
And that's exactly in my head. Like, when I shot my elk, like, and I saw the very minimal, like soak up that it did.
Mhm.
I immediately knew at that split second, I was like, I need to shoot him again when
Mhm.
he stops and gives me a chance.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Whereas I know that guys like Colton, who's an very experienced guy and hunter, have had shooters with 6.5 Creedmoors that aren't capable of delivering follow-up shots, even with perfect shot placement.
Yep.
And whose fault is that at that point? I mean, it's the shooter. Is it the shooters or is it the cartridge?
Right.
It's the shooter. It's the
Yeah,
shooters. It's the shooters for not understanding their capability and what they're actually bringing to the fight.
it's funny. I saw Zach Broughton posted a video of a bull he killed this past season, and the shot didn't appear to be very far based upon the trajectory of the trace, but man, the shot placement was so perfect. It was just it was like, that's exactly what you want. And I made a comment. I was like, that shot placement was so perfect. Even a little bitty Creedmoor would have got the job done on that guy. And he kind of laughed, and a couple dudes laughed. And it's just, yeah, it's shot placement is a big part of the battle. And it's also knowing, like, okay, well, in this orientation, I'm not going to be able to have, even if shot placement is good with this animal's orientation for this particular bullet weight or bullet composition, it's probably not a good shot to take. So we should probably wait and allow the animal to give us another opportunity. So, there's, and that comes with time and experience, and just kind of, witnessing many animals be shot and seeing how they react to those bullets and to those different orientations. And it all just builds the bank, right? It all just builds the bank of experience, and that's what we draw from when we make the decision to go, yep, it's time to take safety off and make wing call and apply the trigger control and make it happen. So it's all but it all happens in a really, really quick moment. That for sure. Now it's like, all right, dude, it's like you literally have 10 seconds, like, before he steps into oblivion, or he steps into a place where you can't shoot him. Um, and you got to be tuned in, is really what it is. You just have to be super tuned into what's going on around you.
I was having dinner with a gentleman that is a hunter, and we were talking about cartridges, and I told him that I'd shot my first elk this past fall, and he's like, "Oh, what'd you shoot it with?" I was like, I shot it with a 6.5 Creedmoor, and he's like, no, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, he's like, how far did you shoot it? I was like, 465 yards. He's like, holy shit. He's like, I've never taken a shot past 300 yards.
Yeah.
And this is even prior to me telling him what I did for a living, right? We were
Oh,
just
okay.
just having dinner with friends, and he's like, well, like, how did you know, like how did you know the distance that like it was okay to shoot him at? And I was like, I mean, I did I did my homework with like that bullet that I was taking, and its effective, um, velocities in terms of what kind of retained velocity I want for that bullet to achieve reliable terminal performance. And then we started diving into the ballistic gap and stuff like that, and helped him program his rifle and his gun. And then it came to find out, like, he figured out what I did, and he's like, so we played the video for him with
Oh, right.
my elk hunt, and this goes back to what you were saying. I think it was, I don't know if it was last podcast or if it was in an in-person class of like how scary it is to focus on the center of the reticle and aim other than where
Oh,
you
yeah.
want to put that shot, right? And so obviously I knew that I was holding for wind, so I was focusing on the 5/10 mark, but like immediately his eyes goes to the center of the reticle. He's like, dude, you're holding at his guts. And I was like, I'm glad you said that, because my business partner and I just had this discussion. And I was like, looking back, I probably should have just dialed for win. But I mean, at this point, I was just like, hey, hold 5/10 and it's good. And then I showed him, I mean, you see the phone scope video, and he's like, oh, dude, that was perfect. And then we just talked about the soak up. And then Stone Glacier just released that video with Jared Miller, with the with that elk that Jared's elk fell down. You remember Jared? We shot with him at Granite Creek. He was right behind us. And I mean, just the difference, right? I think he was shooting a 300 Win Mag, and I could be incorrect, but it was a great video that Zach put together. But I mean, this thing just eats it, and like you can just see the soak up, right? And I mean, stands there for another 2 seconds and then just tips over. Tips over. So that's just the terminal performance difference between the two cartridges is phenomenal. But
yeah, the amount of energy transfer that happens that you can see.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you're right. Like I wasn't expecting the minimal soak up that I saw with that elk. And initially, like I was a little afraid that I didn't hit him. I just had only reaffirmation that I had good shot placement was because of my spotter. And we talk about like, hey, the shooter should have accountability of every shot. Well, shit. Like, I mean, I came back on target and you see it, but because we're shooting into a flesh now, not a reactive piece of steel, it's completely different. It changes the game. And it's like, holy shit. I'm glad that I had Clay there to like give me reaffirmation that my vapor trail or that my trace went perfectly and went in the spot. So I knew my wind call was good, and I just, use the same thing. Right. But had I not had him there, I honestly don't even know if I would have taken the same shot, because at that point I was like, did I fucking hit him in the gut? So should I just hold straight up for the next shot? Right. But yeah, that's something to put in perspective, especially considering the amount of rounds I put down range. Right. And I can only imagine the average hunter that's only shooting 20, 30 rounds a season, if that.
Well, Pete, well, we were in Montana, man. We were talking with Pete, and I remember he looked at me and he's just like, we were talking about how many rounds we shoot and how far we're shooting at animals, how many rounds we shoot per season on average, and how far we shoot at animals. And he's like, he goes, you still miss 600-yard targets? And I was like, fuck yeah, I do. He's just like, there you go. I was like, yeah, that's some sage advice right there, man. It's true. Yeah. It's very true. So, and that goes back to what we just talked about earlier with people refusing to believe that they could have either had a flyer in their load development as a result of their load development, or they had a flyer as a result of a bad trigger press, or a shifting condition that they just didn't see. And, a lot of things can happen. And so but then in that one moment, in that one instant of time where you make the decision to shoot, it all has to come together, and you just can't screw up. Many people do. We do, and it happens. Like you're new to hunting. you're going to experience, you're going to experience things happen. You're going to experience bad shots happen, and you're going to need to learn how to deal with those things. Because it's going to happen. If you do it long enough, it's going to happen. You're going to make a bad shot, or you're going to make a series of decisions that will result or culminate in an event that you're like, dude, how did I get here? So just, it is what it is. And it's the human experience of learning in every regard.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. I mean, that was a good way to open it up. I kind of like this new style of just kind of hit the record button and talk, and then we'll get back in. We'll get into the meat of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I will throw the intro, on top of it. I like that style, where, the podcast that we have been listening to, where he just throws a real quick intro of a summary of what we talk about, of what they talked about in their podcast. So either you and I can do it, and it's something that those guys can definitely look forward to. But what else did we want to talk about? I mean, we got in Florida, we got hands on. I know a lot of people, I might as well just say it, especially I'll probably try to release a video this time. I know I said I was going to do it last time, but I really like to put it up on YouTube for these guys. And I'm still trying to work on the one we did in Altus, but I've got you and I have the is it pre-production C4s?
The C4, I think it is pre-production, if I recall the verbiage that was used. But it's pretty dope, man. It's pretty rad.
Yeah. I've been, thinking of how to really do a video on it. Because, I kind of want to just do an initial video on it to highlight the features. And then I want to do, a common question that I've been getting, because they look at the price tag. They're like, some of the guys are like, I don't know if I can make that jump.
Right.
Then do a comparison, right? Because I've got the 3 different types of setups, the competition chassis, which is, or their original competition setup, which is a Whiskey 3 with Arca forend and a spigot. And then, the one that I typically run, which is an enclosed forend. But
close forend.
I'm a big fan of the C4 so far, man. They did a really great job. I think the input from the shooters that are running KRGs, everyone did a great job to contribute to what this chassis turned out to be, right? And hats off to Justin and the team over there at KRG for really putting it all together. It's pretty phenomenal. So a couple things off the top of my.
I'm sorry. I'm just glad that they decided to turn it into production, because I do recall when we first got the prototypes, he was just kind of like, I don't know, we're not super sure, just because of the amount of expense that goes into producing a part and a product like that. Kind of looking at it more from the standpoint of like the Habu. Hey, it's a proof. Not only is it a proof of concept, but it's a proof of abilities to produce something at that level of quality and precision workmanship. But so I'm glad to know that they made the decision to make it available, which is good, because quite honestly, man, I mean, I've always shot KRG from the get-go. I do really enjoy the CeeLo chassis from American Rifle Company. I shot that quite a bit, but this C4 is it's kind of like it's the pinnacle at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the toolless adjustability of the buttstock is still there, right? He gives the end user full flexibility of adjusting to their specific shooting style and body mechanics. I really love that they've shortened the length of pull. It's still not as short as I would like it to be for smaller frame shooters. I think it starts off at 13 inches. which I think honestly most shooters, small frame shooters are right at anyways, maybe 12 3/4. But I was actually talking with Pete about this, and we were talking about like where does that length of pull actually stem from, and we feel like it's really more the distance between here and here, not because you see shooters, and I've done this, right? Put your hand in the crook of your elbow, but when do you ever interface with a precision rifle like that? You don't, right? So we've been talking about length of pull when I had lunch with Pete. Um, I really love the adjustable bag rider. I was playing with that feature. It's something new
super cool feature
to throw into your shooting kind of mechanics, right? Of like, oh crap, my bipods are too tall, right? So instead of reaching up and making adjustments to your bipods,
you can reach
now
back.
What you have to do is adjust the adjustable bag rider, which is super neat. And then the grip area, right? The forward thumb shelf for smaller hands is very, very nice. Even with my hands, I've noticed myself gravitating to that versus the traditional spot of right where it typically is at.
Mm-hmm.
And so that thumb shelf. But I think my favorite feature of the chassis is the whole magwell area.
Yeah, the magwell area, they did a great job with that, man. Being able to custom fit that, that's huge. And I'm about to learn that because I have, a matter of fact, my BRA and 2 barrels will show up today from the gunsmith. So I'm pretty stoked to get that in my hands and start. I'm going to start fire forming next week with that. And I haven't dealt with BRA spacer kits and stuff like that. So I've got some kits from Primal Rights and I'm going to dump into some magazines, but magazine presentation and feeding and reliable feeding is so, so important. And being able to make sure that each individual magazine or manufacturer of magazine, because they're all different, they all have different dimensions and tolerances and presentation angles and feeding characteristics, that it's awesome to be able to truly customize and tune that presentation using the C4 and those features. I really appreciate I guess you could kind of call them control wings on the inside of the magwell for AICS magazines to keep those things centered and not flopping around left and right. And then to be able to also control the length opening of the magazine well to fit. So that way, if you're not, if the mag hits the bottom of your bag or something, and it kind of tweaks the presentation, your bolt can hit the back of the feed lips and cause a stoppage in your bolt manipulation. And that just is enough to take you out of the loop in that particular moment, especially when you're shooting something like a 90-second stage with, 5 or 10 positions. That's like you're done at that point in time, because your time management skills you're not going to be able to reduce that stoppage in enough time. You know what I mean? Like, so then that big giant area, the big giant barricade stop there to prevent the bag from coming in contact with the magazine in the first place is awesome. And also the adjustability of the magazine catch and the vertical plane is super handy as well.
Yeah. So when I went down to when I went down to Florida, I brought the C4, my 6.5 Creedmoor, and I was using AICS mags. But when I came here back to Cody, I dropped my BRA in there, and I had to make some modifications to the magwell. To the magazines that I'm running for my BRA. So I was originally running the AW mags, which are the double stack 10 rounders. And I was running into issues for certain stages where you had 12 round stages where it's like, now I've got to incorporate a reload, right? And so I got some MDT BR mags, 12 rounders. And thankfully, because of the width of those 12 rounders, I had to take those, like you said, those wings off. But I was able to find a balance between both the AW mags and the MDT mags in terms of size and height, to where both of them run flawlessly.
Right.
So I'm excited to get those out and mess with those next time I'm out at the range. The weather's been pretty shitty here, so I haven't been able to shoot much. But yeah, and then the forend, they've lengthened the forend, and it's all integral ARCA. And then I just love the enclosed forend, how you just screw the enclosed forend on, right? Like I'm a big fan of the enclosed forend, being able to wrap, especially if I've got big hands, being able to put the top of my finger above the shroud.
Yep.
To just help with my C-clamp grip in supported shooting positions is nice. And now I don't have to worry about sliding the whole rail off. I just pop that off, right, to remove the barrel action.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually took one of my enclosed forends, and I put the RRS R-Lock rail on the bottom of it. And I'm going to mess with that because I took the Creedmoor training rifle and put it back in the Whiskey 3, or one of my Whiskey 3s. And then the C4 is going to be what's running the competition guns. The BRA will go into the C4. I'm going to shoot a local match this weekend with some friends here in town, and I'm going to shoot a 6 Creed for that. But then when that's done and over with, the BRA barreled action will go in the C4. And I think I'm just going to take that 6 Creedmoor and put it into the prototype version of the C4 and continue to shoot it, because, hey, it's doing just fine. So it's just a different color. And honestly, like there's not a whole lot of differences. I mean, yeah, the Magwell stuff with the wings on it for the pre-prototype, the initial prototype, but still, it's still super rich with features and completely usable. So why not keep using it?
Yeah, I actually dropped my my Impact 308 back into it because it was shooting. I mean, yeah, now that I have essentially the pre-production or the prototype and the pre-production, it's right. Nice. Not to throw shade on our listeners, because everyone is like asking, like, when are we going to be able to get it? And it's going to come soon, guys. They're working hard to get it in the hands, and you guys are going to like it, man. Especially if you guys you guys love the ergonomics of the KRDs, and the Whiskey 3. And then, yeah, like I said, stand by for a video. I'll talk about the comparisons. If you're currently a Whiskey 3 owner and you're wondering, well, is it worth the jump or whatever, or if you can just stick with what you have and be competitive. At the end of the day, you can still be competitive with the Whiskey 3, right?
For sure.
It's just that competition just now gives KRG the ability to step into the competition game, whereas they weren't initially before, right? Because I mean, when the Whiskey 3s came out, I mean, we talked about this with Justin and John and those guys. Like, their goal was to go lighter, right? That was where the direction of the market was moving, was, hey, how to try to lighten up your chassis.
Yeah, and they're snipers. They're snipers, yeah. And they're like, hey, we want to have modularity. We want to have customization, but we also want to have it in a lightweight package that I would be comfortable carrying as a sniper. And so you're right. They're going the other way, which is nice, and it's balanced. It's very well balanced. You don't need to balance mine with a proof competition contour. Just that one weight in the back. It's basically just unfinished steel. That weight in the back in the stock, and then the forend area, I think it's just because it's longer, it's long enough. And with the competition contour from proof, it just balances out really nice. Now you throw the trigger cam on there. Yes, it kind of throws the balance off just a skosh. But it's definitely manageable, especially with a bigger bag, like a Schmedium sand-filled, which I'm still like, I know we've had that conversation a couple of times about going back and forth between what bags we're using, but I still gravitate to the Schmedium sand-filled. It's just literally like a brick. It's like you throw that up there and the rifle basically just kind of forms itself, or the bag forms itself around the rifle. And it's just like a nice cradle, and it works really well. So Um, you haven't had to add any weights to yours to balance, have you?
No, I just ordered some weights though, to because I like right now I'm still kind of rear heavy.
Mm.
But I did put a spacer in the back. I didn't
Oh,
need
yeah,
to.
that's right. You did.
Um,
You did. Yeah.
but I mean, the buttstock with a heavy profile barrel, because I mean, the chassis by itself weighs just a touch over 6 pounds. I weighed it, and a couple things that we're going to talk about. It accepts trigger hangers. So like before, for like
Yeah.
the Whiskey 3, for guys that are wondering, like the Impact has a trigger hanger, the Kelby Action. The C4 has acceptance for a um, uh, trigger trigger hanger. So don't worry about that, guys, if you're on an Impact. But yeah, so the buttstock or the chassis is rear heavy, and then obviously it's because it's made to have a heavy, or thought of mine to have a heavier contour barrel in front. It'll take up to 1.250 straight bull barrel, and they've extended the fore end. I can't off the top of my head, I don't know the actual length, but it is longer than
Yeah.
the typical enclosed fore end.
Hang on. I've got one. Hang on. Give me a second. I'll measure it.
um, but yeah, and then integral, we talked about integral ARCA. So again, guys, I'm actually texting one of the KRG guys. The um, the the butt pad is adjustable as well, so very similar to the Whiskey 3, where you can cant the butt pad. I don't like the butt pad. I actually made a recommendation to KRG, to those guys, for guys that just don't want a cant, to add a locking feature. So I think they were talking about adding that to the list. But yeah, like I said, guys, excited for you guys to get it in hands. I think it's going to be rad. I think it's going to hit the market really well and be well received by you guys. Um,
The fore end is 16 and 3/4 inches long from the front of the magwell.
16 3/4 of an, okay.
Yep. From the front of the magwell to the end of the fore end, 16 and 3/4.
Cool. Is that the original C4
This is
or
the,
the
yeah,
prototype?
this is the prototype.
Yeah, yeah.
To
So
my knowledge, they haven't changed the fore end on from the two.
the only difference, if you look at the Kalen, if you look at the very first M-Lock, they actually removed that one. So it goes 1 2 2. Yeah. So you see it goes 2 2 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And now I finally at first I wasn't a fan. Sorry, guys. I wasn't a fan of the 2-round holder that they made, but actually once I figured it out how to adjust it properly,
Yeah. It works good.
It's a nice touch. So great job on that, guys. But yeah, dude, that's pretty much it. Like I said, stand by for some videos, stand by for if you know what, I'm gonna say this video will be up on the YouTube channel. I'll throw some
Modern Day Sniper YouTube channel.
Modern Day Sniper YouTube channel. I'll throw some B-roll of the footage I do have of the C4, so you guys can take a look at that as you guys wait for it to release and come out. And yeah, for those that are looking into, again, just look for that next level of competition. It's definitely the chassis for you. So
yeah. Well, we got some super cool projects coming up in the works, guys. We're always trying to figure out new ways to bring you guys information, and we got some pretty cool projects in the works. For those of you guys who have been on the wait for the Prep to Hunt program that we started last year, we're going to be bringing the Prep to Hunt program back in full force coming up here very shortly. And we're going to take a different approach than what I initially thought we could get away with in terms of duration of the course itself. I think it's going to be super worth the while. It'll be good. And we're just going to kind of pull it out in duration and make it kind of like an all season thing, which pretty much is exactly the way it should be. We should be training all season long. And that's what's going to reflect in that. And kind of got some tripod stuff coming from you guys. I've got the tripod masterclass curriculum out, and it's fresh and it's being addressed, and we're going to start knocking that out. And the subscription service this year is going to be super badass. We've got all kinds of really good stuff in there. Philip and I sat down and looked at the next year's content, and we're super stoked on it because we listened to you guys. There's going to be more technical topics they're going to be happening in there, based upon what you guys showed us that you really liked based upon last year's experience. So we're listening, and that's happening. The network is growing like crazy. It's growing every day, which it's badass. It's awesome. And there's such great conversations happening there. It just kind of like took on a mind of its own. And now everybody is in there chatting, communicating, exchanging information. And it's been really cool to witness and watch it grow. So lots of good stuff coming in that regard. And video stuff too. I know, Phil, you're working on a ton of videos. You're always working on a ton of videos. I'm always inspired by your videos. So I appreciate those things coming. And yeah, it's just the springtime is upon us. It might not be that way in Wyoming right now, but I remember when I got back from Florida, man, it was I landed in Pasco, in Washington, in a place called Tri-Cities. It's about an hour and a half away from my house, and it was 68 degrees when I landed in Pasco. And I was at home sorting out my gear, shorts and a t-shirt, and my shop was warm. I was like, oh man, what is happening right now? It's like the 10th of February. So, and it's been super nice. It's been, 50s, 55s, almost 60 during the day. And it's kind of like springtime around here. So I'm hoping the mountains get some more snow just straight for water. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I've got spring bear this spring. Got a 6.5 PRC built for it. Wink, wink. We'll talk about that here in maybe next episode or a few weeks. We've got something coming for you guys, but got a 6.5 PRC built. Gonna be start doing some low development on that here shortly. I've got some 153A tips that I've been kind of sitting on. I've been wanting to push out. So, and then another. I'm really itching for hunting season, man. Stone Glacier
Right?
put that elk video out, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is it? It's only freaking February.
Right.
So, but
yeah, we saw some. We saw some turkeys here. I was in Spokane yesterday. There's some turkeys out, and it's just like, all right, turkey season's right around the corner. They're still.
You hunt those with rifle or shotgun?
Shotgun. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a blast, man. It is so much fun to hunt turkeys. It's a blast. But we got that coming up, and then they're still I guess deliberating on whether or not Washington's going to have a spring bear season this year, which is
sucks.
Super jacked up, man. If you guys are
any chance for a backcountry hunting course? I know we've got a couple guys been asking.
Yeah, we're I'm going to chat with Luke. I'm going to chat with Luke about that. He is he's still doing some guiding up in Canada. And so that sometimes kind of bumps into the backcountry hunter course schedule, just because we have a very narrow window in terms of, weather and snowpack. And then obviously we don't want to be too late in the season because their tags are getting drawn and they're scouting for animals. And, we always just want to be respectful of that stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely coming. I would love to, because we haven't run one in a couple of years, and that's such a great course to teach. Students learn so much from it, and it's one of my favorite courses to teach, just because you get to witness some really, really cool transformations in students when they're in the mountains and getting exposed to the trials that we expose them to. It's fun. So, yeah, man, it's a beautiful day. It's it's 10 to 12 here in Washington, and sun's shining, the wind's blowing, and I've got a couple hundred rounds of 6 Creedmoor that's burning holes in my ammo boxes that we need to get out and sling some lead. So that's what I'm doing this afternoon.
Heck yeah. Yeah. We've been, so I've been trying to get after this year. Again, I'm going for the AG Cup. Been trying to train. I know I didn't train the last couple of days because of the temperature is just super gnarly, or just the winds and the snow. So I've been able to get out, but for the most part, I've been either dry fired for at least 15, 20 minutes or done some live fire. And I just talked about, accountability partner stuff. So I'll send you a couple of drills that I was doing that you and David can probably work on. Definitely, I would recommend filming it. Yep. Do you have 2 trigger cams or just one? Does he have trigger cams?
I have 2 trigger cams. Yeah, I've got
I'd strap one on his gun.
Okay.
But yeah, dude, that trigger cam's freaking phenomenal. I think I really want to do almost like another mini masterclass course of like how to integrate your, well, just but like how to record yourself, right? Like, yep. It's important. What are you looking for when you're recording yourself? I think that's composition is not a very it's just not a subject that's really talked about in I guess our sport, right? Like I've learned it obviously from taking videography classes and whatnot, but like I see a lot of guys trying to put content up for precision rifle shooting or on their own personal page and stuff like that, and it's just not very attractive because of the composition they have, right? Like when I'm watching somebody and I just see their back, right, and downrange, it's like that's not entertaining, man. It's like even just watching someone shoot long range is boring enough, right? Like now I look at my old videos without the trigger cam, it's straight. It's just like it's like terrible to watch. It's like it's just like I know what I'm talking about. Like I remember being in that moment, but like from the outside, it's like, all right, dude, what are you doing with this long gun? And like, what do you? So
well, so understanding. Well, we also had a couple of students filmed themselves pretty regularly in the last intro class, and then there was one student that stayed to the advanced course that also continued to film himself, which is awesome because filming yourself is a fantastic way of just getting a different perspective and truly seeing the things that you're doing subconsciously that your conscious mind is not aware of. And then once you can bring that into your awareness, then you can focus on it and make a change. And guys, I can't stress enough, the trigger cam is phenomenal. The new version of the trigger cam allows you to shoot in really high frame rates, which is really good for obviously, slow motion stuff. If you understand some basics of video editing, you can slow the footage down and you can really watch it frame by frame and pay very, very particular attention to your sight picture and where you're truly breaking your shots. I learned a tremendous amount from reviewing some footage in Florida. And it's very apparent. We were talking about the mirage stuff in Florida and how it distorts your image of the target and where exactly you're aiming on the target versus where you think you're aiming on the target. And the trigger cam gives you the opportunity to go back and look and go, oh, well, yeah, it was. I clearly broke that shot too low on the target because I really couldn't see. I thought that it was in the center of the target, but in the reality of it, I wasn't. And so you can see that through the trigger cam, which is cool. So it's just a valuable tool.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, man, I am, let's go shoot. Let's
go shoot. Yeah. Hey guys. We are now episode 66. We're over 500,000 downloads. Thank you guys so much, for your guys' support. Everyone that just came through all of our in-person classes this last month in January, January and early February, man, I've been on 3 trips already since the beginning.
It's pretty intense, dude. It's pretty intense.
it's super cool to meet you guys that have listened to the podcast since day one. It's just truly humbling, and we appreciate your guys' support and being with us on this journey of the craft of trying to be the best modern day rifleman that we can. So thanks, guys. Appreciate every single one of you guys, and we will see you guys in the next podcast.
Yeah.
You guys know the drill. Keep your face on the gun.
Right on. Till next time, guys.